I know it's 7 o'clock, but I've been contacted by one councillor who's on his way here, who's in West Ealing 10 minutes ago. So I'm going to give it a few more minutes if that's okay. Pardon? He's parking. Okay. So a few more minutes, then we'll start. Sorry for the delay. Okay, right. It's gone 7 o'clock now. So we'll start the meeting. The Planning Committee meeting on the 1st of March, 2023. I will go to the agenda. So actually, no, I should say that this is the committee in front of me. You are the speakers for and against over here. This is the officers over here and officers up here with me as the chair, just so everyone knows who's where in this meeting. Right, thank you. So apologies for absence and substitutions. So I'm not aware of any substitutions. No, but Councillor Mahmood is not well this evening, so is not attending. That's the only absence I'm aware of. Urgent matters, none that I know of. Any declarations of interest? No. Right, okay. Matters to be considered in private, none that I'm aware of. No. Okay. Minutes from the last meeting. Do the committee believe that was a correct record of the last meeting? Agreed. Thank you. Site visit attendance. Right, let's go through. So, Councillor Martin, Councillor Padder, myself, Councillor Hamidi, Councillor Iqbal, Councillor Kelly, Councillor Shaw, Councillor Gordon, and Councillor Summers. Have I left anyone out or added someone inadvertently? Right. Okay. Right. Let's get on with the committee meeting. So this is the planning application for plots A and B, Middlesex Business Park. This is reserved matters of the original application. So, Chris, would you like to introduce, please?
Thank you very much, Chair. So as the Chair says, the application before us tonight is concerning Middlesex Business Centre. It's reserved.
Chris, sorry, could you pull the mic towards you?
Yeah, sure.
Because I don't think other people can hear you.
No problem. Is that better? Okay, start again. Thanks, Chair. As the Chair said, the application before us tonight is the Middlesex Business Centre. It's a reserved matters application. The outline planning permission was first granted in 2019, and this is the first of the reserved matters for plots A and B at the north of the site. The first phase of development, outline planning permission was granted, as I say, in November 2019 for the comprehensive residential-led mixed-use development of this former employment site. The site is a designated development site in the adopted local plan, and it falls within the Southall Opportunity Area identified in the London Plan. The outline planning permission establishes the principle of development and was granted with all matters reserved, with the exception of access. The outline proposals comprised of the demolition of all the existing buildings and structures, with the exception of the locally listed Margarine Works facade and the Sunrise Radio building, which are proposed to be retained. The outline planning permission permits the following development: up to 2,083 residential units, up to 7,199 square meters of hotel floor space, which is 180 bedrooms, 2,688 square meters of flexible retail commercial space, and 10,076 square meters of flexible office community floor space. The outline permission also includes the proposed Maypole Park, other open space, public realm, play space, and a maximum of 330 parking spaces. Proposals also include the new east-west link through the site to be known as Helam Avenue. This reserve matters application concerns the first phase of development and comprises plots A and B located in the north of the wider site. The outline permission was granted subject to a series of parameter plans and a design code that provide controls and guidance with regard to the locations of land uses within the development, as well as the position, height, width, and depth of development within the identified development plots. The design code provides additional specific guidance in respect of various detailed design matters. This and all future reserve matters applications are required to demonstrate full compliance with the parameter plans and the design code to ensure all phases of the development come forward in a cohesive manner. This reserve matters application seeks approval of the reserve matters, which include layout, access, scale, appearance, and landscaping. It is only these matters that are to be considered tonight. The proposed development subject to this reserve matters application comprises the following key elements. The delivery of 867 dwellings, of which 282, 35% by habit or room, are affordable. 30% provided as London affordable rent and 70% provided as shared ownership. The new internal road network, including the east-west Helam Avenue, which incorporates the segregated cycle lane, bus stops, service bays, and the railway street. It provides a service route to the northern perimeter of the site. Extensive high-quality public realm incorporating hard and soft landscaping, including a tree-lined boulevard along Helam Avenue. Extensive shared amenity for residents, including outdoor amenity in the form of 3 podium courtyards and accessible roof terraces, and indoor amenity in the form of gym, leisure suite, residence lounge, co-working spaces, cinema room, etc. Dedicated play space for a range of ages with communal courtyards totaling 480 square meters. 180 bedroom hotel located in the southwest corner of the development, closest to Southall train station. 787 square meters of flexible commercial floor space delivered in a range of unit sizes with flexibility to enable a variety of uses to come forward. High quality architecture and detailing designed in accordance with the parameter plans and design code. A revised, improved energy strategy responding to the latest guidance and available technology.
Chris, sorry to interrupt you mid-flow. Are we supposed to be seeing slides behind you?
Yes, and you are on my screen.
Right. That's the only screen I've seen. And I think that's the only screen the committee have seen. Apologies, I should have interrupted a bit earlier.
Jack, I don't know if you can offer some guidance because I'm sharing my screen and it's sharing.
Apologies for this. We have been IT bugs friendly for the last 2 or 3 meetings. So yeah, we'll try and fix it.
Fine. Sorry about that. So I'll just quickly go through the slides that you missed then.
Please, yeah.
There is a bit of a delay between what I'm seeing here and what you're seeing there, but okay. So first image is just an aerial image. This orange outline shows the site subject of the reserve matters application this evening. You can see to the right of the screen, this is the Westworks site, formerly known as the Margarita site. And then you can see the other recent developments, the former Honda garage and the, I forget the name of it, is a former Esso garage development just there. So the next slide, this was just the outline application. So there's just the details which I read out, and then there's an indicative image of how the outline planning permission would have, what it was based on. So the taller elements towards the railway, which is the subject of today's application, and then the lower scale developments petering out towards the south. You can see here, you seeing my cursor? Yes, you are. Is the Maypole Park, which I referred to. Just going on to the next slide. So this is the parameter plans. This is development plots which were subject of the outline application. You can see plots A and B at the north of the site. That is what is subject of today's application. And the remaining plots will be subject of future reserved matters applications. But these are the development plots and which the parameters approved. The parameters also fixed the land uses, the heights, the widths, the depths of the buildings. Again, this slide just refers to the design codes, gives a bit of extra information, but again, just refers to the plots. And then there was a bit of text which I've pretty much gone through, and this is where I pick up where I was. Is that okay, Councillor? Great. So just detailing what this application actually comprises of, and I think I just got to the point about 180 bedroom hotel located in the southwest corner of the development closest to Southall Range train station and other public transport connections. 787 square meters of flexible commercial floor space delivered in a range of unit sizes. High quality architecture and detailing designed in accordance with the parameter plans and design code. A revised and improved energy strategy responding to the latest guidance and available technology. Significant ecological and biodiversity improvements, achieving an urban greening factor of 0.327 and a biodiversity net gain of 163%. This is just a site plan of the reserve matters application. You can see to the left there, that is the Margherita development. So the reserve matters application brings forward detailed designs for plots A and B, and the scheme has been developed to be fully compliant with the outline application, parameter plans and the design code. Proposed building takes the form of a pair of courtyard buildings linked at ground floor by a podium, a single-story podium, with heights ranging from between 4 and 27 stories, with a single-story podium level. As I said before, the taller buildings are towards the north of the site, nearer to the railway, and the heights gradually reduce as they come to the south and as they front Helam Avenue. The ground levels of plots A and B are linked by the shared podium and lined by an active uses to Helam Avenue, behind which is parking and back of house uses such as cycle refuse storage and plant rooms. The hotel use occupies the southwestern corner. At first floor, the two buildings in each plot are separate and surround their own private courtyards with a third central podium space separating the two buildings. The upper floors are formed of residential accommodation, including studio, 1, 2 and 3 bedroom homes, all of which comply with minimum space standards and have access to private balconies or roof terraces. In terms of the appearance, the buildings follow the principles set in the design codes and incorporate a simple and robust palette of materials with different tones identifying different elements of the building. The architecture has considered the existing local vernacular and the heritage assets, including the Sunrise Radio building and Maypole factory facade, incorporating key themes from these buildings into the proposed scheme. Overall, the design approach is considered to be of a very high quality and will deliver a well-designed and characterful building. Proposed development has demonstrated a strategy to achieve high standards in terms of sustainable design and construction, including high levels of energy and water efficiency, low emission levels and air source heat pumps and PV solution. Potential impacts with regard to air quality, noise and wind, as well as cumulative impacts associated with other developments have all been assessed by the supplementary environmental statement, with no significant long-term adverse impacts being identified. Relevant conditions have been either previously secured under the outline permission or recommended to ensure additional information and details of mitigation measures are submitted for approval by the council. Overall, the proposals for the comprehensive redevelopment of this site will provide a significant economic boost for Southall, bring this long-term underutilised and neglected site back into a productive use, significantly enhancing the area and furthering the regeneration objectives of this important opportunity area. In addition to the delivery of new homes, including affordable homes, the proposals will also deliver the first tranche of Section 106 benefits secured under the outline planning permission. These include financial contributions towards key transport infrastructure delivery, bus service improvements, education, healthcare, and nearby parks and open spaces. This initial phase triggers funding of 6.13 million in addition to mayoral SIL. The proposals have developed through a programme of extensive pre-application consultation and have been subject to a review by Ealing's design and community review panels, as well as further consultation with stakeholders. Council officers, including representatives from planning, regeneration, energy and sustainability and regulatory services. The applicant has also undertaken their own extensive public consultation prior to the submission of the application. Proposals are recommended for approval. I draw members' attention to the briefing notes, setting out a couple of clarifications, details of 2 further objections and some minor amendments to the proposed conditions. Thanks very much, Chair.
Thank you, Chris. Okay, right, we turn to the objector. Is it Kerry? You can either come up here or you can do it from there. You have 3 minutes. After 2.5 minutes, we'll alert you to 30 seconds to go. At 3 minutes, we'll have to stop you. And that applies for both.
Okay. I'm speaking on behalf of 32 individual residences at Doniford House, which directly overlooks the proposed development site and Samuelson House. Whilst we are objecting the proposal at this stage, we welcome the intention to expand the Southall community and inclusion of public spaces. We wish to submit our objections to the proposal based on the following themes: the right to light, right to privacy, pressure on existing community resources and services, and the location of the hotel. The proposed development is approximately 21 metres away from Doniford House at the closest point. We therefore suggest that the space between the buildings is increased to allow for more privacy and daylight to both buildings. This would also open up the opportunity to bridge the 2 developments by introducing communal green space, which is severely lacking in the proposal and this part of Southall. Due to the rectangular footprint of the proposed buildings, the residential units and the hotel face directly into Doniford House. The privacy of the residents of Doniford House and the new development would benefit from cranking the footprint to alter the sightlines. This will increase the privacy and daylight of both sets of residents, since the development will cast a shadow over Doniford House in the afternoon. We've conducted a solar study to visually demonstrate the impact of the new development on Doniford House, which shows that on the longest day of the year, the lower floors of Doniford House will only receive 1 hour of direct sunlight. It is important to note that the design of the Westworks development mostly consists of recessed balconies, which means that the windows to our main living areas are not on the outside of the building. This development being so close means that we are further reducing daylight. Furthermore, the tallest of the proposed buildings accommodates 26 floors, which is approximately 13 metres taller than the highest point of Junction West. The development is 37 metres taller than the adjacent Doniford House, which stands at 14 floors. Whilst there is merit to the regular rhythm and massing from east to west, as demonstrated in the design and access statement, it fails to reflect the scale of the existing developments. We propose that the height of the tallest buildings in the new development are reduced to mitigate the impact of the findings of the solar study, and that the taller buildings are located in the centre of the development. Southall is already under-equipped to provide adequate services to the local community. With the increasing population across the town, Ealing Council has a responsibility to ensure services are both improved and expanded to cater for additional residents. It is our view that the new development should provide space for key healthcare services.
30 seconds.
From our experience, waiting lists at GPs are long, NHS spaces are unavailable, and Ealing Hospital is over capacity and schools oversubscribed. Councils must ensure that the basic healthcare needs of the existing and new community are met. This sentiment extends to local amenities such as grocery stores, access to good quality leisure facilities for the whole community, cafes and restaurants. We would, however, caution against the inclusion of fast food outlets, since Southall is already saturated with such units.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Karen. Right, we go to the applicant, which is Kate Milliken. Is it Milliken? McMillan, sorry.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you all for your time this evening, and thank you to Chris for your presentation and detailed report. I'm Kate McMillan, Development Manager on behalf of the applicant. This Reserve Matters application is the first phase of the approved Middlesex Business Centre Master Plan. We welcome the officer's recommendation to approve this application. The scheme has been carefully designed to fully comply with the outline consent, staying within the consented parameter plans, adhering to the design code, and focusing on the architectural detail and internal layouts of the new homes and hotel. The design embeds sustainable principles and gives consideration to the active frontages, public realm, and open spaces. The scheme has undertaken extensive consultation, both through 2 in-person exhibition events, an online event, as well as presentations to the Independent Design Review Panel and the Community Review Panel. We've been working with adjacent landowners to ensure the proposals come forward comprehensively, giving consideration to the connecting routes around the site and how this phase knits in with its new neighbourhood. Placemaking and the quality of public realm and open spaces have been at the heart of the design and the proposals. The public realm has been considered in great detail to create spaces focused on pedestrians and cyclists, with successful spaces for the enjoyment of both the new residents and the residents in the wider area. A public art strategy has been produced, which will continue engagement with the wider community through the delivery of this first phase. The public art strategy seeks to celebrate the culture and heritage of the site, and we hope the delivery of this art strategy will help to integrate and connect the new residents with the wider existing community. 282 affordable homes are included in line with the approved Section 106. All the affordable housing will be delivered prior to 50% occupation of the private housing. The scheme has responded to detailed comments from HSE in relation to fire and has incorporated measures to conform to emerging legislation which is currently in consultation, therefore future-proofing the scheme for upcoming regulation changes for fire. Sustainable travel has been considered for the scheme, including nearly 1,600 cycle spaces and new bus stop and bus drivers facilities within the scheme. The design for the new tree-lined Helam Avenue incorporates a designated cycle route, which connects into the wider network. We are already working with the Highways Department on the Section 38 agreement in order to deliver Helam Avenue. 116 car parking spaces are proposed, which includes 2 car club spaces, disabled spaces, and electric charging points. The scheme will generate significant economic benefits, including 140
30
jobs
seconds.
and over £6.1 million of Section 106 contributions, which include £1.39 million for bus service improvements, over £2 million contribution for the pedestrian and cycle bridge, as well as over £900,000 of healthcare contributions. We've worked closely with officers over the last year to carefully work through the detail to bring forward a vacant site to deliver new homes. If approved, we'll be seeking to commence delivery later this year. We welcome officers' recommendation to approve, and thank you for your time.
Thank you. You couldn't have timed that any better. That was bang on. Right. Okay. Thank you very much, both of you, for speaking. And right, is there anything you want to come back on, Chris, from the objector or the applicant? Or you don't have to?
No, I'll wait till the members' question.
Okay. Right. So, right. I'm going to throw it up open to members' questions. And then as normal, we'll go do the questions. Please keep your questions one round. I don't want to keep going back and back. So I've seen Councillor Summers and Councillor Ball have indicated first.
Yeah, 2 questions. One is about the road that in the site plan. It appeared to end in a roundabout, but at the site visit on Saturday, I was under the impression that the plan was for it to go all the way through to the site beyond it. I just wanted to clarify that. And on the point that the objector made about community resources, GPs, etc., I just wondered if the officer could clarify whether that is planning grounds or, obviously it's covered by Section 106 or SIL payments. So I just wondered if we clarify that.
Hold on that. Anyone else indicating questions? Councillor Ball next.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. 2 questions. So both arising out of the objector's comments. So the first is about the parking issue around the hotel, because I assume it's CPZ around there, but the nature of hotels is that you will often have hotel guests who are wanting to, park overnight. So potentially parking when the CPZ isn't in operation. So I just wondered if I could ask about, so what hours is the adjoining CPZ? Is there a real risk that the hotel guests will end up making it difficult for existing local residents? And then the other, probably more serious issue is the daylight loss. So do officers agree that the units on the lower floors of Doniford House would end up with an hour a day direct sunlight? That does sound to be problematic, if that's correct.
Councillor Amidi.
Thank you. I'm sorry if it's in the plans and I've missed it, but I just want to find out, given the scale of phase A and B, what measures are the developers proposing in terms to put in place to minimize the disruption whilst the building works are going on to the residents in the neighbouring blocks?
Right, Chris, do you want to take those? Because I've got 3 more at least indicated.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. Sorry, excuse me. So just dealing with the first one, the Helam Avenue. So the site plan, which is on the screen now, that shows the Helam Avenue terminating in a roundabout, because that is what the applicant can deliver at this stage. It's very much the very much the intention that Helam Avenue will link up and eventually get through to Havelock Estate. It needs to go through the neighbouring site first, which is the Honey Monster site. And we're currently in discussions with the new owner of that site with regard to development proposals for that site. And that does indeed provide that link, which will connect this site through to the link to the Havelock estate. So although that's what the site plan shows, it is very much the intention that it will be a through route and a bus route as well. Moving on to the second question, so is about healthcare. So it is a consideration in terms of the planning application. Obviously, there's going to be a lot of new residents, and they are going to have needs in terms of healthcare. And that's why there's a significant contribution secured by the outline planning permission. And as I said, a tranche of it will be delivered as part of this application, which will go towards healthcare provision in the borough. So it is very much a consideration. And as I say, the developer is mitigating that by funding healthcare provision in this part of Southall. The next point was parking. So there's 116 parking spaces proposed as part of the development. There's an element of those which will be for the hotel. Hasn't been agreed yet exactly how many of those will be for the hotel, and we'll discuss that with the developers at the next stages. But it would be predicted that there will be provision for hotel guests. In respect to daylight loss, so the proposed development is, as has been detailed tonight, it's in accordance with the parameter plan. So it's no different to the development and the impact that was considered at the outline stage. So the developer has submitted a daylight and sunlight impact assessment as part of their application, and that has been independently assessed by the Temple Group, who are an independent company on behalf of the council. And their assessment is that it won't lead to any significant adverse effects. So that's how we've come to the conclusion that the daylight losses or lack of loss is acceptable in regard to this development. Finally, the construction issue and construction impacts. All developments are subject to a condition which requires a construction management plan to be submitted. This development is no different, and the developer will be required to submit a detailed plan which will detail how it will detail a whole lot of different measures to ensure that the development is built in a way that minimises harm to existing residents. Thank you.
Thank you, Chris. Okay, Councillor Martin, next.
I just thought it might be helpful to clarify what we can and can't determine tonight from some of the issues raised by the objectors, such as the height of the buildings and the relative layout or location of the buildings. It's my understanding we probably can't talk about that, but it'll be useful to know if we can, or to what extent that we could.
Hold that, Chris, for a second. Councillor Shaw.
Yeah, thanks, Chair. Just a couple of questions. One on a similar note to Councillor Martin there, but I will just sort of ask the question. I think it's a question for Ms. Macmillan here, really, just sort of what consideration, given the objections that were put forward to the ordering of the heights and the blocks and so on. So I was wondering just what consideration was given in bringing these proposals forward. If you could outline that for us, that might be helpful. Along with that, I was sort of looking at the parking structures and so on, and very much welcome 20% electric parking provision within that. And I was wondering how the 20% had come to as well. So, and just why 20% and not 25 or 35%, for example. And finally, just on the provision of the play space, particularly Maypole Park. Obviously, this is an outline for the first stages, and the provision for the place and recreation areas is to come at later stages. So I was just wondering if an explanation could be given of when that might be available and when that would be happening, just because obviously with a large development like this and a large number of residents going in, if this is towards the end and the late stages of it, then there could be, a number of families and people with young children and so on in there, all needing access to space that wouldn't be available at that point in time.
Okay, hold that. Councillor Coley, next.
Thank you, Chair. One of my questions has been answered because it's been confirmed that a sunlight and daylight report has been done, so that's fine. The other question I have is, although they are giving us section 106, wasn't there a strong emphasis on having medical and leisure facilities within the development rather than going for the 106 or whatever contribution they're giving? Thank you.
Okay, so I have only one more, so I'll take that. Councillor Kelly.
So I just want to understand the curtilages of where the objectors live and where this is and who owns what in terms of the land and how the planning came through. And it may be a technical question. It's about conveyancing and how, when they were built, how much would the people living in your accommodation, the objectors accommodation, would know about the planning where the current site is, conveyancing 29 sort of question. Would it have picked that up? Jackie's nodding, so she thinks, yeah.
Hold on, Jackie, hold on. Let's take these in order. Right. So Councillor Martin's question, I'm going to ask you, Chris, to answer Councillor Shaw's, and if you can't, I will bring you in, Mrs. Macmillan, because it really should be directed at the officers. By all means, we didn't used to have anyone but the officers answer the questions, but we have kind of strayed into objectors and applicants answering questions. So I will bring the applicant in if needs be, and you feel that it hasn't been answered. So, and then Councillor Coley's and Councillor Kelly's questions after that.
Okay, thank you, Chair. So just I think the first question was just about what elements members can consider tonight. And as explained, the outline application was subject to a series of parameter plans and also the design code and also fixed quantums of development. So the parameter plans have fixed the heights and not just the maximum heights across the whole development. It's different parts of the development, different heights. So it really has dictated the form of development that is before us tonight. And there is and that's true in terms of the position of the buildings as well, the widths, the depths, and that sort of thing. So in terms of those elements, they were all considered by either yourselves or your colleagues at the outline stage. And the elements that are to be considered tonight are the detailed matters, the detailed appearance of the buildings, the detailed landscape proposals. So it really, it gets into the detail of the proposal, really. I hope that answers the question, yeah. So the second one was the consideration of heights. Again, the heights were considered at the outline stage, and in sort of broad terms, the heights are highest at the railway where there isn't where there's less constraints, and as the site comes further south, the heights reduce gradually. I think that's the kind of the overall basis of the development. Is very broad. Obviously, there's lots of more detailed intricacies in the development as a whole, but that as a broad sort of strategy, that's how the heights have been considered. The 20 is that okay? Sorry, is there anything else before I pass?
No, carry on, Chris.
Yeah.
And if Councillor Shaw isn't quite, because I know he directed this question at the applicant too. If Councillor Shaw wants to come back and the applicant wants to come in, we'll keep going,
Sure,
Chris.
no problem. So the 20% electric vehicle parking is a London plan requirement. So that's where that's why it's fixed at that. But as EVs become more popular, the developer, I suspect, may feel that it would be beneficial to provide more, but it's certainly a minimum of 20%, and there is passive provision for a lot more. The point about play space. So I mean, this development.
Yes.
So just for clarity, just on the electric vehicle provision point, there's a minimum of 20%, but that could increase in the future. I'm thinking that this is a major development and that actually, it might not all be built in sort of 5 or 10 years time when there's increasing demand. And so that could be reviewed at that point in time.
Yeah, that's right. So that's why there's passive provision. So it's easy to install it. So there'll be 20% provision on day one. So actual units to charge an electric vehicle, but then the infrastructure for additional units to be provided at a later date will be in place, will be delivered by the developer. The point about play space. So the development itself does provide a large amount of amenity space. It is all on the podium and courtyards and roof terraces. So it does provide play space, amenity space. It provides indoor amenity space as well, as I said, in terms of the cinema and other indoor spaces. So it's not as if this development delivers no amenity space whatsoever. It does cater for its future residents. Obviously, as the later phases come forward, Maypole Park will be delivered, and that will be a significant asset, not only for the residents of this development, but residents of other developments in the local area and wider Southall in general. In terms of the delivery of that might be a question for the applicant, because I don't know the timing of that. So the next question was about medical facilities and whether they should be provided on site. So there are commercial units on the ground floor, and they could potentially come forward as healthcare facilities. It's not dictated, it's not mandatory that they should come forward as part of this development, and that's why we've secured the Section 106 funding. So if it doesn't come forward on this site, there is funding for it to be delivered elsewhere in the borough. So it is a consideration, but and as I say, that's why the financial contribution is secured.
Okay, and Councillor Kelly's on timings, conveyancing, etc.
Yes, there might be one for.
Sorry, Jackie. Jackie's itching to answer this, aren't you?
It's simply the two sites are in separate ownership. So generally speaking, you will get given details of any planning applications, etc., that affect the land on which the property you're buying applies to. But so clearly here, if it's separate ownership, you can't be absolutely sure that that information would have been available. However, it is very common in inquiries before contract on any conveyancing transaction for the question to be asked, are there any applications or any permissions that have been granted or that somebody should be aware of? So in broad terms, but I can't be specific about this case, you would expect that lawyers, when making inquiries, would have asked that question. And bearing in mind that the outline was granted in November 2019, you would have expected a site next, an adjacent site for that to be a relevant piece of information that, broadly speaking, you'd expect to have been come out of the process. But I can't say, obviously, in an individual case that has happened.
Okay, I think there might be one question left hanging, which is about the delivery of the play space in terms of timings. I just, if you know, that'd be great. If you don't, that's not, we're putting you on the spot, unfortunately.
I think it's, we don't have a date in terms of Maypole Park, but I think we just need to differentiate in terms of play space. There is going to be play spaces coming forward as part of this development, and the green spaces you can see on the eastern side there by the roundabout. So Maypole Park is a future phase, and the delivery of that park is not. I wouldn't be able to quote you an accurate figure today, unfortunately, on that.
I can just come in and add that the original outline consent envisaged obviously phase 1, A and B, the northern sections of the site, plus the Helam Avenue Road. And then the next significant phase was obviously in the middle of the site, which would bring forward the Maypole Park. So that was basically the sort of general order. And as you went further south, the later phases would come forward. So just to give some assurance that the vision was obviously to secure the park in the next phase, now that, following on from phase 1.
Okay, thank you for that, Chris, and everyone else that answered questions. I see no more indications of questions, so I'm going to open it up for debate now. So all those wishing to contribute to debate, Councillor Summers, you can kick off as you did the questions.
Yeah, I was surprised nobody else beat me to it, but yeah, I am very reassured by what the officer says, especially about the daylight and sunlight impact. I mean, we did ask on site how far or how near the hotel building would be, and it is 21 meters, which is that is the legal. It can't be any nearer than that, and that gives you a space for sunlight. And the independent assessment says they will not be majorly affected. Obviously, at the moment there's nothing there, so it's going to be an impact on them. But I think it's okay, and it obviously, I mean, those people in that existing building, currently it's just a big empty site. It's largely industrial that's going to be knocked down. In the medium to long term, this whole area should be sort of much improved. The park, etc. And I think I hope those residents buy into that. I can understand why they're a bit worried about what's coming down the road, but I think this area of Southall will be majorly improved by this, and I'm minded to vote for it.
Thank you, Councillor Summers. I see Councillor Ball.
Yeah, thank you. So I think there are some concerns, but most of them are things which were on the outline anyway. So there's nothing that can be done at this stage. I mean, so the specific heights for these blocks are in the outline, and so was the disappointingly low 35% affordable housing percentage. I mean, I'm glad that the officer responded that the overshadowing report had looked into the effect on other buildings, because the section in the report is quite vague about that. It really seems to be only talking about the overshadowing of other parts of the new development, kind of as a, kind of as an internal thing. But if we're told that that has been properly taken into account, then we have to go with that. And I guess the final thing, I agree with Councillor Shaw that 20% EV charging is what's in the policy, but I would hope that by the time it's actually built out, that they'll be looking at much higher levels than that. Thanks.
Okay, right. I don't see any more indications from anyone. So, okay. And I haven't heard anything basically against the development this evening. So I'm going to go to the vote. You're happy to go to the vote at the moment? Right, okay. So all those in favour of the application, please show. Yes, just be 100% sure. All those against? Any abstentions? Right, thank you. So that application is passed. Okay, that's all the business we have tonight. What is the next date of the next meeting? 5th of April. So look forward to seeing some of you here on the 5th of April. And some of you will have the night off. Thank you very much for your attendance tonight, and thank you very much to the speakers as well. Thanks, Chris.